Hello. My camera's lagging, so that's not great. All right, debugging shit already. Why is everything lagging? First off, my mouse is doing good, my camera's not. Okay, I'm going to restart it. I'll be right back. I love streaming. Everything works so well. Okay. Looks like my camera is actually working. Looks like the dog is dogging. Looks like today we're not going to be doing Lisp, so that can go away. Today I'm doing multithreading. That should be exciting. Actually, today I want to start the stream with a trigger warning. I will be using a word that some people may find offensive, a word that some people might find problematic, that they might take issue with. If that's the case, if that's you, then sit this one out. Take care of yourself. Stay safe, as Americans love to say. Actually, let me say it like Americans really would. You're gonna want to go ahead and get started with staying safe. The word is this one. This is the word. This is the word that I'm gonna be saying throughout today, because it is what I've decided to call my system for, handling asynchronous resources in my operating system. That is the word that I came up with, so that is the word that we're going to be using. All right. Hello, Peter. Hello, Ice Dave. What's up? It's been a while. The word is not AI, no. Thank God. That is a word that is offensive to me. I don't have a problem using it, though. The intelligence part is particularly offensive. And hello, D. Stole my name there a little bit, but hello, nonetheless. Okay, well, I just noticed something here in my logs. It said cpr test.elf into ... fs redOS tools / test. Whoops, I guess it works. Doesn't matter. Okay. Actually, before I get started with multithreading, let me talk about something that is exciting to me. About Lisp, a little whisper for the Lispers. So I worked on my Lisp interpreter on Monday and Wednesday, and on Wednesday I talked about a little theory that I have about the fact that, when my Lisp interpreter lives inside my compiler. And in a compiler, you usually take, a text file or just text in general, you tokenize it, you then parse it, that creates a syntax tree. You then do semantic analysis. We can skip this part. Then you do an intermediate representation of the code. And essentially, this turns your code into a simplified but still correct version of code that the compiler understands. Then, on that, you can do optimizations, you can do static analysis, for example. Like, okay, if some code is never reached, then you know that function is never used. Maybe you want to produce a warning there, that kind of thing. And you can do evaluation to a certain extent. For example, if I have something like int a equals 1 plus 2, and then here I have print a, the compiler might want to optimize this and be like, wait, hold on, 1 plus 2, I can just resolve this right now, 3. And then, wait, hold on, the value of a is never changed, and you're using it here. How about instead of putting a on the stack and having to retrieve it from the stack every time you use it, I just hardcode the value here? Right? So I just got rid of that. I got rid of, actually not save this. I got rid of all that. That is a basic optimization that requires a little bit of evaluation of the code. And And I talked about how, for example, LLVM used to stand for low-level virtual machine, although it's not exactly what we would understand as a virtual machine, and it does a ton of stuff. So that word is not really accurate anymore, but it used to be. And I would say it is accurate for my compiler, where essentially the intermediate representation can be thought of as bytecode for a pseudo virtual machine, which I've taken to call in an imaginal machine, that the compiler is able to run. That's where Lisp as an interpreted language comes in. Because when I added Lisp into the intermediate representation, all I had to do was add S expressions. And then implement eval and apply, which I'm still in the process of doing, but with that, I'm able to evaluate Lisp expressions. And for example, we have this, add 1 and 2. This gets evaluated, and the result becomes 3. With the same mechanism that I'm using to do compilation. I'm also doing evaluation of Lisp. And I mentioned a theory on Wednesday about being able to use Lisp for metaprogramming with another language, and I can confirm that very much would work. So I'm very, very, very excited about that. Because metaprogramming in C is kind of shit. Metaprogramming in Lisp is kind of incredible. And also, I will eventually be able to get rid of this entire part of my compiler, and everything will just go through here. So that simplifies things a lot. So yeah, the compiler will work as both a Lisp interpreter that can run standalone, or that can interpret Lisp as part of metaprogramming, or just doing like static expressions inside of another language. So it can allow you to do metaprogramming with Lisp. Lisp has really revolutionized everything. Lisp has really like taken control of my life. It's incredible. All right, hello Beer Bosch and Otokara. I'm doing good. How are you? I am on Windows 12. That's the operating system that I'm on. The only thing, by the way, that's preventing me from doing this is this kind of the same thing that was preventing me from doing it on Wednesday directly. Because I took like 20 minutes to see if I could hack it together very quickly. I couldn't, and the reason for that is that the intermediate representation generator in the compiler is shit. I've always thought it was shit. It's given me so many issues, but I haven't bothered fixing it. And so now, it's really causing issues. But most likely what I'm going to do is rewrite it completely in the same style that I did, you know, the same Lisp version of it. But essentially, this component and this component are kind of equivalent to each other. This one acts as an almost drop-in replacement for this one. And the rest, literally the same. Well, there's no code gen for Lisp. But there could be, but there isn't. So yeah, we're about to unlock metaprogramming in Lisp, and this is also going to power the operating system's scripting language, which is another thing that I'm very, very excited about, scripting the OS in Lisp. We're going to show all those OpenClaw fools how to truly automate something. How it's really done. Okay. Lisp parenthesis over, if you will. Let's get to the topic of today's funeral, not a funeral, very enjoyable stream. It is going to be, now I think I'm gonna be able to manage today, okay-ish, I hope. Today we're gonna do multithreading. We've already been doing multithreading, but we're gonna be doing the next step of multithreading. Why do I want multithreading? For the love, can I on YouTube chat, can I turn off automatic translations? Because they're ridiculous. They make messages unreadable because they're translating from languages that aren't real. It's taking perfectly readable messages and translating them into unreadable slop. Christ, can I turn this off? Can I turn this off? Um, There's no way for me to turn off automatic translation of chat messages. Which again is wrong 100% of the times. Okay. Common YouTube L. I guess I am gonna mention AI. I just want to point out once again that YouTube's translator in the chat is not the same translator as Google Translate, which actually works, despite being powered by the same technology and owned by the same company. The YouTube translator is shit. I don't understand how you fuck up this badly. Then again, it's Google. That's all they do nowadays. They just fuck up. It's just fuck up after fuck up after fuck up after fuck up. Stop. Stop it. Nobody wants translation in the chat, and it makes messages literally unreadable. Alright, I can't turn it off. I am not allowed to turn off auto-translate in my chat despite it making messages unreadable. Cool. Not gonna say anything because I'm gonna get banned if I say something. Fuck. Anyway, moving on to multithreading. Let's talk about multithreading. So, the reason I wanted to do multithreading is file system and user space. Essentially, the way that I want to power is, let's just close all of these. Start with a new. Should I use Emacs today? Maybe I want to use Emacs today. Hold up. Let's use Emacs today. Let's see what that's like. I'm terrified. Anyway, what the fuck did I do? What did I do? Did I crash? Nah. I think I just closed the only buffer that was open, so it closed the app. I'm not sure. I was trying to do new file. No, but I want just an empty buffer that I can type into. I already forgot. This is the problem with Emacs. This is the problem with all of these fuck-ass text editors. You have to learn some obscure keystrokes to do anything. And even though I learned them, that was a week ago, I've already forgotten them. There's no way someone asks how to create an empty buffer without whenever creating a new frame, and your answer is code. There's no way. There's no way. I tried Gen 2. Not really, no. Okay, I really need someone who is very, very, very into Linux to explain to me what the point of even multiple distros is when at the end of the day, the user space is so disconnected from the kernel. And they all are janky. Genuinely, why should I care about which distro am I on? And most importantly, why do so many people care? Not that I have a problem answering the question, but why do so many people care about what distro somebody else is using? I'm asking genuinely from not understanding it, not from having a problem with that. Is DuckDuckGo any better? Because Google, once again, has fucking lost it. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? I asked a question and I got an answer. Holy fuck! The absolute level of computing nowadays. Insane levels of slop we are dealing with. Nothing works anymore. Jesus. And people ask me, what's the point of doing your own kernel? I don't have to deal with this shit. What's the point of doing your own? I don't have to deal with this shit. That's the answer. What's the point of doing X? I don't have to deal with Y. That is the point. Okay. Let's actually talk about multithreading. And I wanted to do the file system in user space, which Linux calls fuse. I don't want to call it fuse. I mean, stands for file system in user space. Hold on, I always forget about this. It doesn't actually stand for that. Because that would be FSUS. Alright, hold on. Let's see if we can find a single useful search engine. Is the fact that I'm typing everything in caps not a hint to you as to what I'm asking? I'm genuinely pissed off today. Don't try me. Don't test me. I am angry at technology in general. Alright, so don't fucking test me. File system in user space. So essentially, that resolves to file system in user space. That's the only way that this spells out fuse. Alright, so I kind of forgot that actually it's not. FSUS would be the actual name if it was file system in user space. So maybe I'm going to call it FSUS. 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 Or maybe user space file system. United States Force for Space. That's probably going to be some military thing. United States Forest Service. Okay, it's not a military thing, but it is a thing. Alright, so we're not going to call it USFS. The United States File System. It's not even 4th of July yet. Alright, I'm gonna go with, I don't like FSUS or FSUS, but maybe I'm gonna call it FSUS. Anyway, the file system in user space, I want to power this thing. Essentially, we're going to have a process, let's say process 3, owning a section of the file system. Like, for example, let's say that process 3 is a driver that powers a distributed file system that allows me to essentially access files and folders on other computers. And that's mounted to /shared. But it is a user space file system module. Right. So another process, let's say process 4, wants to read or write, either one really. Let's say it wants to read from /shared/hello.txt. All right. Normally, when you do a read in my system, at this point, when you do this read, the kernel is going to step in. And it's going to be like, oh, you want to read from /shared/hello.txt. First off, is there something called /shared in my file system or in your file system? Because there's a virtualized file system and then there's the kernel's file system. But either way, does the thing that you're trying to access exist? Okay, it does. However, it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to process 3. If it belonged to the kernel, then the kernel would actually execute the read operation itself immediately, give back a result, and that would be it. That would be the result of that. Hello, Infinite Coder. Thank you for the raid. Welcome. We're just getting started over here with, we're building FSUS, the file system in user space. Real meaning The real acronym for that. I'm not sure what the word is. I'm also not sure I'm gonna call it that. Anyway, if the file that you're trying to read is owned by the kernel, that includes actually like stuff that is on the disk and whatnot, then it is going to handle that. It is going to give you a response. That's going to be the end of it. Your process is going to be interrupted during the duration of the syscall, but that's it. Whereas instead, if it's owned by another process, the whole thing becomes kind of asynchronous, because now the kernel has to tell process 3, let's say wake process 3, and make it handle the request. Then process 3 is going to perform the read, and this might take some time. You know, maybe it, like I said, process 3 in this case, I'm considering it to be a distributed file system. It talks to another computer on your local network, but even that may take a few milliseconds both ways. Plus whatever protocol you're using to communicate, there's a little bit of latency there. It's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be a super quick response. It's going to take some time. So let's say that it takes 2 seconds. During that time, the kernel has to also do something else. Block process 4. And to be fair, it should do this with threads. It should block thread. Whichever thread is doing this read should be blocked. The rest of the process can continue. But for the sake of the explanation, you know, I'm simplifying things a lot. So the process is eventually, it's given a thread. It is actually given a thread to do this. It executes that thread. It runs that code. It handles the request. It finishes. When it finishes, the kernel is going to be able to pick it up and say, okay. Why should it say okay? Got response from proc3, wake proc4, and send it the response. All right, so that suddenly the kernel's job when it comes to the file system being in the user space, or parts of the file system being in the user space, goes from fulfilling the actual file system request to coordinating the communication between the requesting process and the process that provides this resource. To do that, this is where the word that I, again, did a trigger warning at the beginning for comes in. I want to create a job system. Right? Essentially, when the kernel receives this request, it's going to be like, okay, shared belongs to 3. Okay, so I'm going to create a job. It gives it ID 5. Right. Then it wakes process 3, creates a thread attached to job 5, and makes it handle the request, blocks process 4, which actually should happen before. How do I move stuff? I don't know, Emacs, man. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to move this to the line above it, like swap those 2 lines, but whatever. I guess we'll get there. And anyway, when the final process, or process 3, is done with its request, it got a response for process 3, so job 5 is fulfilled. Wake process 4 and send it the response. That coordination is what I'm going to be building today. And then on top of that, there's also the fact that we have to deal with buffers. When process 4 wants to read from a file, it tells the kernel, hey, I want to read from this file, fill this buffer in with information for me, okay? Usually it does so with a cursor indicating where in the file to read, and a buffer of a specific size indicating how much information it wants to read. So, cool. That buffer is in process 4's memory. The kernel can access it, process 3 cannot, and I don't want to share it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just copy it over to process 3's memory, Process 3 is going to fill it in inside its own memory. It's going to be a completely local operation just happening in its own dedicated thread. When it's done, the kernel is going to know where that memory is, take it back to the original buffer, paste it over there. Writing is going to be the opposite. The buffer with the information comes from the first process. The kernel takes it, copies it over to the other one, doesn't need to copy back. So in both cases, the kernel is going to create a buffer on the receiving end, and depending on the kind of information, it is going to copy information to or from that buffer at different times. And then there's other operations like, for example, stat, which gives us the status of a file. This also needs to be available in this file system in user space. Stat takes a path, and it takes an fs stat pointer for a pointer to data that is to an object that is going to be filled in, or a type that is going to be filled in with the information of this file here. It's the same situation there with the buffers. The difference is that instead of the process telling me how big the buffer is, it's a hard-coded size of the buffer, the size of the structure here. All right, so that is the whole plan. Let's see how it goes. Hold on. All right. I'm starting to hate Rust. Same. I haven't even written the damn thing, but I've never been slightly interested in writing Rust. Before I'd say if you hate Rust, you're doing it wrong. Well, maybe I'd be right. No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Process 1 and 2, like the names of the process, the numbers of the processes are all made up. It's just for explaining what I'm going to be doing today. And I am using Emacs because Z is becoming more and more unusable. The more they vibe code, the more it breaks, and it really fucking sucks. Genuinely horrible experience with the code editor. When I started using it, Git was a little bit glitchy. Now Git is buggy as hell, and other parts are starting to become a little bit glitchy. And if you know how software is built, well, you kind of know how this goes. How software is built with AI, I mean, you kind of know that this is just going to get worse and worse and worse until eventually it becomes an unmaintainable mess. And there is one thing that I like about Emacs is how integrated it is. It has all the tools that it has work in the same way. In a way, you don't really need any kind of special functionality to power any of these tools. I think everything is text-based, and that gives you a lot of very useful things. What I don't like about it is mostly the fucking keystrokes. I learned them when I tried out Emacs, when I first started doing the Lisp interpreter. When I first tried Emacs a few months ago, but when I truly sat down and started using it. And I liked the idea behind the Emacs. But genuinely, having to memorize a fucking 50 keystrokes just to do anything, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. What is the point? What is the damn point? I already know how to copy, how to paste, how to save, how to close, how to open, how to do this and that. Why do I have to learn completely new keystrokes for the simple reason that Emacs is so old and so outdated that they haven't bothered keeping up with the times? I don't know. For example, one thing that I found really funny is these are windows. These are frames. This is a window. This is a window. this is a frame. And again, the reason for that is probably backwards compatibility because Emacs is older than windowing systems. An absolutely ridiculous state of affairs. Emacs, I've heard, is good for Lisp, yes. To be honest, I couldn't get Slime to evaluate my expressions, but I don't know. There is one thing that I do think about Emacs. This is what a terminal should be like. This is how a terminal should work. This is how you should do text-based interfaces. Not whatever the fuck terminals are doing. But now we have terminals that are doing everything wrong, and then we have Emacs that is doing everything wrong, but is doing everything right when it comes to being a terminal, but wrong when it comes to being a modern program, but good for text-based interactions. Again, a genuinely sad state of affairs. And then you got more modern, user-friendly software that's just being vibe-coded and then becoming unusable more and more. As the fact that right now I'm staring at a message on YouTube that says game, when in reality the original message is how are you? But the auto-translate decided that they're asking game? No game. No game. Code. Productivity. No game. Productivity. Okay. Let us begin with the okay, last no, it's not gonna be the last one. Trigger warning, I will be using the J word. Alright, let's begin with the job system. Okay. Alright, so the plan part 1 is, again, I technically already built this, didn't I? You can mount... I need to check how well it works, because I've made changes and I have not checked this. I have checked the other process, but not this. Why is it full screen? And why is it such bad full screen? Why is there missing lines? That's not good. Also, real quick. No, that is full screen. Okay. I need to remember. I did something in the terminal. I think I didn't commit it, so maybe I'll have to do it again. I mounted a file system in userspace in the terminal. I just need to remember, did I actually commit that code or do I need to write it again? The syscall for mounting a new file system is called loadfs module. And loadfs module is being called by the terminal. There it is. Okay. So the terminal is going to be mounting a module called terminal history, defined by this structure here in userspace. If I'm not mistaken, we already have this. So if I open the terminal and then I open the file browser, there's term history. There it is. It is mounted, but that's it. We cannot access it in any way. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be seeing some CBARN. Can't be bothered right now when it comes to how to actually handle, you know, making these requests to stat a file, which is what the file browser is trying to do, to read files, to write files, to do all those things. Right, so hopefully after today it will be not it won't be CBARN anymore. It will be something else. What is SEML? Syntax highlighting. What is SEML? That's an interesting name. I mean, tree sitter is pretty good for syntax highlighting with the sad part of being JavaScript based. But I already have a generator for that, so I actually don't mind it. Is that how you do that? Is that how you do that? Okay. I closed Emacs, didn't I? I keep going back. I keep going back to Z. So I think I'm gonna have to close it. And hope for the best, truly. Alright, I wanna see real quick, because I just learned about this ad hoc. Because I installed a how do I open a file in this fuck ass thing? Nope, that's not it. That's not it. That's it. Okay. This. I added this language. And then I should add this as well, all right? That's not how you can't paste with Control V. See my problem with this editor? I got a question. What is your question? How do I paste in this fuck ass thing? Control Y for yank, I believe it was. I called it beyond mode, right? And then I want to hook it into what? No, I still don't understand the mechanism for getting Emacs to load this tree sitter plugin into loading whenever files with a .rules extension are opened. Because this is not what I thought. I think. Wait, which one of these do I do to evaluate the current lines that I have selected? Not the current buffer. I mean, the current buffer will work. But okay. How do you do that? How did I do that? There's no keystroke for that. Okay. Anyway, can I now? No, I haven't. There's no association between this and this. That's what I don't understand about Emacs. And at no point did I tell it files with a .rules should be highlighted using that tree sitter plugin. No, I pressed the wrong thing. What I want is Alt X, and then here I want to try maybe beyond mode, no match. What about without the parentheses? Beyond mode, no match. Beyond, no match. I'm genuinely lost with this thing. Having to look up documentation every 5 seconds is annoying. Alright, let me see your question. So common in this job market that they ask DSA in coding interviews. Is DSA used anywhere else? Yes. Hello, Blurry Square. I mean, again, what does DSA stand for? It's data structures and algorithms. You kinda do need them for writing code. It's just a matter of like, it depends. If you're doing something low level, pretty much guaranteed that you need it. If you're doing something in JavaScript, pretty much guaranteed that you're never gonna care about like the data structures that you're using. And let's face it, JavaScript almost seems like it's attempting to make things as unoptimized as possible. So literally, who cares about data structures? Using the best one for the job. Java does care about that stuff, but just like, yes, but I feel like, you know, understanding those things is a pretty good tell for whether you understand the meaning of coding, like the actual essence of coding, the, you know, the sauce of it all, more so than being able to memorize syntax. Like, who cares about memorizing syntax, right? So maybe that's why they ask those kind of questions. At the same time, you do have to understand that when it comes to schools and when it comes to job interviews, the questions that they ask or the things that they teach, questions that they ask, you know, at interviews or like in exams, and what you're actually going to be doing on a day-to-day when you're working, vastly different things. And that mostly comes from, again, from it being the best way to evaluate your knowledge, your ability in a short interview or even an exam, and a lot of, you know, BS also. Let's not lie about that. Okay. Well, we got 14 minutes. Do I maybe want to take those 14 minutes to learn how to actually do a tree-sitter plugin for Emacs? I have it installed. And by the way, this is one thing that I've really liked about Emacs is how easy it is to install tree-sitter plugins. With Zed, I had to make it compilable with like Wasm. And despite it being written in JavaScript in the first place, and then compiled to C and Rust, I had to make it compilable to Rust, and then it compiles to Wasm, and then it installed to Z with extra packaging to make it into a Z extension. With Emacs, I literally just wrote that thing that we just looked at. Command attempted to use mini buffer while in mini buffer. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, bro. Just all I had to do to get this in my system was this. Just tell it, hey, I have this GitHub repository with a tree-sitter repo. Get it. But what I don't know is how to activate it. That's the problem. I don't know how to activate it, and I don't know how to automatically activate it whenever files with a certain extension are called. All right, so let's see. Emacs install tree-sitter plugin. Let's see. Tree-sitter was added in Emacs 29. I'm on Emacs 30, and I just downloaded it like a week ago, so it's kind of interesting. It's a very new thing. But congratulations to the Emacs people for making it simple. Okay. Building with the tree-sitter support, I already have that. You need to check out tree-sitter source code. I don't need to do that. I already have it installed. I don't need to do that. Install it the language grammars. Okay, this is what I need. Emacs will look in tree-sit extra load path. Is that what I used? No, language source A list. Okay, that doesn't matter, I think. Install language grammar. Installs a language grammar by first cloning the Git repo, hosting it, then compiling and storing the shared library in your Emacs D directory. Okay, so it seems like it's not just adding a file, I have to run a command. But again, this feels kind of old. No, wait, hold on. Okay, this is the A list that I'm using. Who's that behind me on the far left? That? That's the pig I'm eating for dinner tonight. It's a dog that's always sleeping in the background. I don't know who he is, but he's chill, so I let him stay. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I have. Although, I'm seeing that I am setting it. I am setting. I am not... That's weird. I am setting this list, not appending to it. So that's kind of weird. Also, why not Vim? Because Emacs has a lot more features. I like the amount of features that it has. I like the fact that it handles, in a way, it acts like an interface around your system that is truly text-based. That's why I say Emacs is what a terminal should be. It has a lot of like really useless features. Like I opened an email client today by accident. I don't need an email client. I'm good. Doesn't matter. But like, all those features that like Z, for example, custom created this. I'm sure they have like custom UI for this, custom UI for this, custom UI for this. Little bit of vibe-coded slop for this and for literally everything else. In Emacs, it's all text buffers. And that standardizes things in a way that I think can be really useful. So I really like that philosophy behind Emacs that I don't think NeoVim has. For the love of God, NeoVim is also like even more stubborn than Emacs is. Okay. Okay, so I just need to call this treesitter install language grammar. So all text tree. Is it one word or yeah? Treesit install language grammar. The language is beyond. Install to default oui. Cloning repository. The install language cannot be located or has problems. Version mismatch 15. No! No! Did I ever specify a version of some sort? It's probably in a package.json. What a horrible thing this fuck-ass language is. Did I ever specify version 15? Anywhere. I see version 0.1, but that's like the version of my plugin. Treesitter this 25? That would be crazy if I have treesitter 25 and they're asking for treesitter 15. There's no way, right? Unless it's treesitter.json that I need to look at. Is that... No, hold on. Open that. Why didn't that open? That's interesting. Okay, grammars, name beyond, camel case beyond, title this, scope this, license description, authors, link, bindings. Has bindings for C and Rust. That's true. I don't understand which version mismatch you're talking about here, Emacs. I don't know if 15 is the version that they expect or the version that I'm using. I cannot tell. There's nothing close to a 15 in my configuration here. Unless it's directly here. No, it isn't. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. There's an old file, by the way. I'll need to update the grammar now that it has semicolons at the end. But that doesn't matter. At least it doesn't make it this big blob of stuff. Make file. Do you know anything about versions? I see. So I could do tree sitter language available P, but that's not gonna work. Okay, so at least I'm understanding more about what I need to do, but I don't understand this version mismatch that you're talking about here. Like, genuinely, how is that my fault? I mean, besides being tree sit install language grammar, language is beyond, install to default. It says library installed, but then it says version mismatch. And do I have any more information on this? No, don't. It calls it a warning. It says it was installed. Do I trust you? Is there anything about using 15 here? No. Okay, I don't understand that problem, that version mismatch thing. All right, but it does say that it was installed, so maybe I'm gonna try reset language available P. Can I run that directly in here? Reset language available P. No, I don't think I can run it here. There is the empty buffer, which I've already forgotten the keystroke for. See, this is my issue with this language. I mean, with this editor. Is that I have to memorize all of these keystrokes. And until I do, I will forget them every 5 seconds because they're so unintuitive. Control X, B. Didn't do it. Okay. Is this my Control X, B, switch to buffer? No, I want an empty buffer. I have to specify a buffer that doesn't actually exist so that it creates a new one. I have to guess one that doesn't exist? Are you joking? That is ridiculous. How is that the best way to open an empty buffer? And then I want to evaluate this. By the way, I used to have Slime installed. That's gone. Alright, what about this? How is there no empty buffer without having to give it a name? Because again, Emacs, I want a completely empty buffer that I can use to evaluate the expression that I just wrote. I don't understand how this is that difficult. Is it language available? This is a genuinely unintuitive, but really useful editor. It's ridiculous. The last S expression would be this one. Nil. Okay, so it's not installed. I think. I don't know if I ran that correctly. Alright, ad break coming. Then I'm gonna start with the job thing. I am genuinely horrified at how difficult it is to open an empty file in Emacs. Shouldn't that be a thing that is possible to do? Shouldn't it be a thing that is desirable to do? Can't I have a little scratch buffer for fun? As a treat? Please? I'm gonna need to work on my code editor because this is not acceptable, but the philosophy behind it is good. Alright, the fuck does that mean? I have no idea. What a pain in the ass. I don't know what else to call it, man. This is the one that I wanted. This is the buffer that I want to open. What is it called? The scratch buffer. So is that what I want? Is that the one that I want? I can do XB and then scratch. And that takes me here. If I do Emacs and then I do default scratch, it's the last buffer I opened. Okay, so can I create a keystroke to do this for me automatically? Because I want to use this buffer to write stuff when I'm explaining stuff, when I'm needing to run through some logic, whatever. There's an ad running on Twitch, so alright, so Emacs new key binding. And now I'm gonna have to find one without knowing the key bindings. Am I speaking, what language am I speaking here that you cannot give me results? Make new key binding. 0 changes. There we go. So either Google works or DuckDuckGo works. Neither of them wants to work at the same time. Okay, that's cool. So I want to do a new keystroke for myself that I can use to open the scratch buffer whenever I feel like it. How can I know? Go fuck yourself with that answer, by the way. How can I know if the keystroke is used or not? I want to do something like, all right, so if I'm here and I do Control S, what does that do? That's search, right? So I already know I cannot use Control S. Cool. Control X is already taken. Control, I don't know, Enye? That is undefined. All right, so I'll take that one. And I'll write global set key. And I'll write see that. And I'll do I need to do another Google search to know how to do this. I hadn't thought about that. Because I've been doing it with keystrokes. Right? I do Control X, Control B, and then I type scratch. That's what I want to do. But like, how do I tell it to do that? Describe key and describe key map. Can I run that? What is this? Messages. To see what is used and what functions are bound to keys. Interesting, okay. Is there a way that I can see how they're implemented so I can figure it out by myself without having to Google it or read the manual? If somebody tells me to read the manual, I'm gonna throw a manual at them. And it's probably like this large, so it's gonna hurt. Here's an idea. You make software that doesn't require reading a manual. How's that? How's that? Is that a possibility? Can we do that? Maybe. Does anyone like reading manuals? Is anyone like, oh boy, a new code editor. Oh, I'm so excited about reading the manual. And a year from now, I'm going to be able to use it to write code. And what code am I going to write? A plugin for the editor, of course. There are people that are like that, but I'm not like that. All right. For opening file. Okay. Luckily, I got the answer for what I wanted. Space mat. Okay, fuck that. Find file? Can I do that? Will that work? Okay, if this works, then that's great. If not, well, oh well. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to escape it. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to work. Find file. And then I do scratch. And I can evaluate the last expression. That didn't work. No, it didn't work. No. I forgot how to close a frame too. Wasn't it Control X? 0? That? It was. I must have been doing it wrong. Okay. Invalid read syntax. Invalid modifier in string. So am I just supposed to... Is it actually a variable called scratch? So I can just do that. Because it seems like it. Alright. No, that's even worse. Oh boy. Alright, so how about I search for opening scratch buffer. Literally giving me the entire answer for what I'm looking for. Give me a copy and paste. Because this is not helpful. This is a lot of typing to open a buffer that I'm trying to access quickly. Okay. This is not it. But almost. Switch to buffer. Switch to buffer. Do I want that? Because that was Emacs. Switch to buffer. Can I give it a name and that's all I need, or do I need something more than that? Wait, invalid modifier in string. The entire complaint is about this. Oh boy. There is a buffer called scratch. I want to use this one always. I always want to come back to this one specifically. I know it doesn't get saved, so if I close Emacs and I reopen it, it's going to be gone, but I always want to use that one in the same session. How am I asking for so much? Is AI that bad at low level and sys stuff that you have to look up on StackNet? It's that bad at every level. Yes. Literally, yes. Okay, this person is asking the exact question I'm asking, so I'm expecting the exact answer. What the fuck do you mean my scratch buffer? What do you mean my scratch buffer? How about you scratch? Okay. Well, I don't know how to make this work. For the love of God, this fuck-ass editor. Alright, but I said I was gonna write some code, so I need to write some code. I need to stop bothering with this shit right now. I'm pissed off. Alright, yubs. I'm gonna create a new file in there. Is it the backslash? I think it is, but I'm honestly not. I didn't try double escaping, maybe? Then again, I copied that, so... Can I... Control Z does not work. Why do I think Control Z would work? What is wrong with me? It's obviously a 2-keystroke thing. Might as well give it a try before I fully give up. The error just keeps getting bigger. Starts with non-prefix key. Your mom starts with a non-prefix key. My god. Switch to buffer scratch. That is the syntax that I want. Okay, that works. That works. That works. I just need to figure out. Okay, so I just need to figure out the keystroke syntax. Here it is. 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 Oh my god, thank you. Thank you. Cody Chan. Cody Chan. Thank you for not having like a randomly NSFW profile. I should not have clicked on it. A fellow Elden Ring player and Rustation. Oh well. Can't win them all. Thank you. I hope this thing works. Okay, I should have probably checked. Cody Chan. Cody Chan. Thank you. Okay, but I wanted to do this as my keystroke of choice. It seems to have worked. Wait, I wanted to do it like this actually, so without the X, can I do it like this? Cody Chan, thank you. Holy shit. This is horrifying. Like, I'm trying to do the most basic thing. It's a whole thing. Read the manual. Read the man. Read your own manual. Fuck off. Anyway. Can I do CD? Now I'm wasting too much time. Okay, let's just get to it. Kernel, process, jobs, job manager. Let's go. Pragma unsi. We're going to include types.h. There's 0 autocomplete going on here. Amazing. All right. We're going to type def, because I'm being nice here. We're going to type def an I64 or a U64 even as a job ID. Maybe we're not gonna need a structure, so for now I'm gonna skip it. Job ID T, create new job. All right, so when there's something in the file system that is going to be asynchronous, which, by the way, one thing I didn't explicitly mention is that the entire like synchronization between threads, inter-process communication, all of that is going to be powered entirely by files. So I only need to implement this job thing for file system operations because it will power literally everything. And yesterday, I was thinking about like everything is a file and all that stuff. Now I have a scratch buffer. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. With a simple keystroke, I have that. Holy shit. Look at that. I was thinking about like how files are really just like mapping memory. I don't really need to type anything, but now I like to have this open. That's really all files are, virtual files anyway. Like that everything is a file philosophy of mapping devices to files and whatnot. Literally, all it is mapping resources to giving them a name. That's it. So when I do, I don't know, /graph/screen, what am I doing? I'm telling the graph system, that's the directory, that I want to access the screen resource that it has. When you think about it that way, everything as a file makes a lot more sense. And it's really useful. Which is why the entirety of inter-process communication and inter-thread communication is going to work like that. It is going to be powered by the file system. So I really am going to be able to make this whole job system very specialized to handling asynchronous file system operations, and it's going to know exactly how to handle all of them in a very specialized way without having to generalize it and have little edge cases and stuff. I don't have to deal with that. It's just going to be a file system manager, but asynchronous. That's it. We're going to create a job, and we are going to then that is the basics of it for now. And the implementation of it, you could autocomplete a little bit. Come on, man. Nah, bullshit. This thing, which to copy, it's MW. It's Alt. Alt to copy, Control to paste. Insane. Insane language. All it is going to, not language, insane editor. It is simply going to have a job ID T, job ID counter, initialized at 0, or even initialized at 1, and it is going to return job. Can you autocomplete here? No. Oh, that's... It's also indenting with spaces, not tabs. This editor is something else. At least do 4 spaces. My dude, come on. Alright. Okay. So, in the file system, I'm going to do it for stat. That's going to be my first guinea pig for doing pretty much what I tried to do just now. Yeah, we're in Emacs. Fuck-ass editor. What do you mean unknown type? I declared it right here. Didn't I? This is a valid declaration, right? What are you going on about? No, like genuinely, what are you complaining about? It's declared right here. Is that not a correct type def? Did I forget how to do type defs? It's type def, then the old type, then the new type. Right? It's not a problem, is it? No, this is not it. Type def, old type, new type. I'm not tripping here. I literally defined it. What are you going on about? Okay, I need Z. I am lost as fuck. What are you going on about? Well, this is empty. This is fucking, oh my. Okay, I'm genuinely trying to use Emacs, but this is absolutely ridiculous. How is it still unknown? It's literally right here. It is literally right here. I'm losing it. Also, what are all these files that it's creating? Get rid of them. Fuck right off. Count instead of counter? Oh, that's the complaint. Oh my god. It wasn't complaining about the type anymore. I've been so pissed out. Thank you. So pissed off at Emacs. I cannot think anymore. And why is this thing suddenly large like this? I don't get it. Everything's broken today. Anyway, the test thing that I want to do today is I open the terminal, it mounts a file system, I open the file browser, it gets information on the file system. So this won't be gray anymore. That's pretty much it. To do that, I need to implement the stat function. To implement the stat function, I will need to go to filesystem.c. Here there's going to be a stat function already implemented, but here it is, cbarn. When you try to, how did I copy? What the fuck is this editor, bro? I am at a loss for words. I am lost. Okay. When you try to do stat on term history, that module, the kernel is going to detect that the owner is not the kernel itself, it's somebody else, so it has to be given to that somebody else to handle. It cannot be handled by the kernel itself. Although that isn't necessarily right, if it is a kernel process, yeah, if it is a kernel process, it should be handled by that kernel process. So we will need to retrieve information on the process, know if it's privileged or not. If it is privileged, we can just directly access it from the kernel because it's in the same memory space as the kernel. It's literally just an extension of the kernel being run as a process. Is it POSIX compliant? No one ever will be. POSIX is created. So I don't want it to be POSIX compliant. But everything that I'm doing, everything is a file. That part is one of the few things that I like about POSIX. All right. So I'm just gonna add a to-do because I cannot be bothered doing this. And right now I don't care about non-user-lent processes. And to be fair, yeah, the owner of a kernel level file system is the kernel, even if it was created by a different process. So this should not be a problem at all, I believe. If it is, then big deal. I'll get to it when I get to it. Anyway, what we're going to want to go ahead and do is we're going to want to create a job ID. So do I not have line numbers? I just realized I don't have my numbers. Is the mic cutting out a lot? Is it? Because that's an issue that I used to have. So that's kind of new. I mean, that's not kind of new, but it's kind of annoying. If that's the case. Hello, Best Creeper. Twitch, you have lower latency, so can you hear me okay? Or is the audio cutting out? Speak now or speak later. Not like, fine? Okay. Sounds like it's just you. But if anyone on YouTube can confirm about a minute or 5 from now, because there's a lot of latency, please let me know. I can see what's going on. And just in case, you know what? Hold on. Here's a link to Twitch. No, there it is. There's a link to Twitch. Okay. So we're going to want to create, and again, I'm going to have to Google. Cody Chan, thank you for your last contribution to the Emacs thing. However, Emacs turn on line numbers. How do I display line numbers? You can run the command with display line numbers mode or Emacs global display line numbers mode to try it. I'm going to lose it. Fine equals to false. Oh shit. Do I have headphones here? No. Alright. Just let me see. Can I hear myself fine? Can I hear myself fine? I mean, this sounds fine. There's echo because I don't have headphones. So wait, hold on. Is it actually like... Yeah, okay. Oh, for fuck's sake. That's wonderful. This is an issue that I have not been able to understand what is causing it. I don't know what to do about it. I can check my cable to see if that's the problem. But could it be the audio interface? I switched to my old one. Maybe that's what's causing it? I mean, it's worth checking. Alright, it's fine now? It seems to be coming and going, kind of, but okay. Was it the cable? It might be my audio interface. If it's fine now, then there's an ad break in 30 minutes. I'm gonna take a break. And it's back again. Fuck. Okay. I'm going to take a couple minute break. I'm going to switch my audio interface, see if that fixes things. Okay. Yeah, maybe if I switch to input 1. Okay. Yeah, maybe if I... Sorry, that was really loud. Oh. Okay. All right. All right. Is that... It keeps clipping. It keeps clipping. I think I'm just like have the gain too high. All right. Is that good? Is that a good volume? I hope it is. Sorry also if I destroyed your ears before. Okay, great. Yeah, it's not lower quality. It's just settings. That's clipping. All right, good, good, good. All right, so the old audio are these called audio interfaces, by the way? Shitty ass thing. I don't know if that's what it's called, but yeah, I switched to my old one that I used to use for streaming because I used like I have two. I have one for streaming and one for music, and the music one is better, but I had been using it for streaming, but I needed it to record stuff, so I switched it over to another computer, and then I was like, what if I just don't switch it back? It clips the audio. That's what happens. Okay, so we're good now, no clipping, volume is fine, audio quality is fine. I think so. So we're good now, no clipping, volume is fine, audio quality. Yeah, could use a little work, but we're good. All right, do you build with Clang or GCC? GCC. I do use Clang only for like cross compilation for Mac, as it uses Clang by default. Okay, we're good to continue then. Where were we? Yeah, we're trying to implement stat for a file system in userspace. To do that, we need to do some asynchronous operations. So really, the first thing is we'll need to trigger the file system to call stat. That's part one. Part two is we need to let the caller know when the callee, the one that actually executes the stat operation, is done. And third, we need to synchronize data between the two. If we don't synchronize data between the two, then there's not much that the callee is gonna do besides print something, but whatever. Today I became more and more annoyed with x86. Yeah, listen, ARM is cool, okay? That's all I'm willing to say about that. There's a reason this will never be a cross-platform operating system for x86. Convenient as it would be because I could truly replace Linux with it. Nah, not worth it. Okay. We need to include, and I'm really disappointed that we don't have autocomplete here. We need to include a process jobs job manager. Sorry, I forgot to do, after that little interruption, another trigger warning. We're going to be using the J word. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Why are you deleting shit? Where am I? What am I doing? Oh my god, this editor is gonna kill me. This editor is going to be the death of me, I swear to god. No! Why am I in insert mode? Okay, just pressing the insert key disables insert mode. By the way, I forgot to mention my stream went down for a few seconds there because I disconnected my network cable when I was back there connecting the audio thingy. So also I had two cables. One of them is slow, one of them is fast. I was connected to the slow one. Okay. Back to it. Back to it. Where were we? Stat. All right. So here in the stat manager, we're going to want to do this. We're going to want to create a, why am I seriously speaking like an American now? Like, or you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to get started with getting started with the going ahead. We're going to create a job ID Jod. Jod. Job ID create new job. And by the way, I was completely wrong about jobs not needing a structure. They do need a struct. Not sure why I was thinking they don't. They will need one. But anyway, create job. Something no president is ever good at doing. Can I not indent with tab at all? Lord. All right, and since I don't have much to do right now, I'm going to ignore the fact that I have the shift key pressed and it still turned into a 9. Whatever. Sync will happen with job I, and we're going to print the job ID. Sync between the currently calling process and the caller process. And that is the direction, right? Because stat is a request for information on a specific file or folder. The information right now is just whether it's a file or a folder and the size of it. Emacs, you're really messing with my indentation of my code here. Fuck right off. All right, between who? The get current process ID and the module owner. All right. After we're done doing that, we're going to want to block the current process until it should be the current thread, although I haven't gone around to blocking individual threads, and I am okay with doing everything in the main thread right now for testing. So we're going to be blocking the current process. I'm okay with that until job ID is resolved. And then we're going to schedule a new thread with job ID for mod owner. Okay, so we're essentially going to schedule a new job for whichever process this ID points to, and we're going to need to associate the job ID that we have to that thread so that when the thread exits, the job is considered fulfilled. The job manager has a way to pick that up and unblock the current process. Right now, there's not going to be any kind of resource share, like memory sharing. It's just the unblocking process that I want to do. Did the stream freeze again? It's your computer, they're saying? Okay. The stream manager is lagging. It's super, super old, so not sure why it's showing me really old stuff. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it looks fine to me. All right. Hoping there's not a whole lot of issues today. All right, so that's the functionality for today. Tomorrow we're gonna want to do the. I am genuinely catching myself saying gonna want to do a lot. And it's upsetting me and only me. Nobody gives a shit about this, but I'm noticing a lot, and it's it's really bothering me. So I'm gonna want to go ahead and stop doing that. Okay. Okay. So block the current process, schedule the new thread on this process, and then that's it. Why do I use both? Wait, hold on. You said something about Emacs before that I didn't read. Might have been useful. If you want a low-stress way of fixing all your issues, then go to the Explorer on the left, press Ctrl A, and then delete. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm not really using Z. I'm just like trying to go back to it because it is, at the very least, despite being vibe coded and glitchy as hell, it is a code editor that just like works in an intuitive manner. And if Emacs had that, it would be the perfect code editor. Also, if it wasn't GNU Emacs. Okay, if it wasn't GNU, GNU stands for God, no usability. That's what it stands for. Because it's janky. GNU software is janky. God not usable. That's better. Thank you. Thank you. GNU is janky. So if it wasn't GNU, and if it was intuitive, which are almost synonyms, but not quite, Emacs would be the perfect editor. But it isn't. And it has given me GNU is not usable. That is perfect. It was right there. Oh my god. That is perfect. That is perfect. Yes. It has given me ideas for how to structure my code editor because I've always wanted to do this, and like seeing someone that's already doing it but doing it poorly gives me ideas for how to do it properly. So code editor stream coming soon. I haven't really needed to work on my code editor a lot because Zen has been working, but now it hasn't. So terminal tools are fine. And I believe that's probably because the terminal tools are inspired by the Unix tools that came before them. Like, GCC is just like a new version of a compiler called CC, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I am wrong, but I do believe that is the case, and CC was a Unix tool. So GNU is the GNU version of CC. It probably copied a lot of its behavior, and that's what makes it good. Alright, so far these 4 lines of code is all I have written today. I was planning on being so productive, but then I forgot I'm using Emacs. Okay. I have this. You know, what did I do? I have this, and now I don't need to run it right now. Okay, so let me instead of running this shit, just go to process real quick. And to the thread, I'm going to add, of course, a job ID t job ID. This job ID is only gonna get filled in. Why am I in insert mode again? Also, the GNU, the G in GNU stands for jank, but spelled with a G for some reason. Okay, the indentation's really messing with me because... Oh my god, look at the manual. Can't even write a cache? Well, I don't have any caches. I do think caching is enabled in the system now, but like... yeah, it wasn't for a bit. I do have a job, yes. The legacy internal controller maps the legacy timer to vector 0. Bro, switch to ARM. That's all I can tell you. Emacs customize. Indentation. It's indenting with 2 spaces. I use at the very least indentation with 4 spaces. I have to say I don't indent with tabs. I use tab, but it indents with. That's what I want? No. They're using a variable here. Which means that this entire script is what's doing it. Oh my god. Is this what I want? Tab width. Emax tab width. Misspelled it, but it should be fine. Change tab width. This is what I want. This is what I want. We found an easy answer here. I almost can't believe it. Right. You paste with control. You copy with control C like a normal fucking program. And then you paste with control Y. Why are you pasting, my brother? Can I just... What are you pasting? You're supposed to... I'm gonna cry. Emacs is gonna make me cry. There. Is that... Did that execute? What is this? Oh my god. I think it executed. I can't indent in here, so... I'm a little scared. Did I do it? No. No! No! I am wasting more time in Emacs than I am doing what I need to do. Set Q default. Set Q default. Right, I forgot default. Just no. It's an error. I typed the exact same thing they told me to do. I'm going to lose it with this fucking editor. Wow, it's jank personified. Holy fuck. Now it worked. Now it worked. I think? No, it didn't. Why am I doing this to myself, man? Just fuck it. Just fuck it. Alright, we're back at that. Love of God. Let's see when I can squeeze in a code editor stream. Probably after this. If there's any time between this and Lisp interpreter being ready, that's when I'm gonna do a stream. If not, after the Lisp interpreter is ready, it's gonna go straight into the code editor. Look how much faster I'm writing code here. Boom. What the fuck is going on with the indentation here, bro? Oh my god, the absolute jank of it all. Create new job is the word. Get current proc. The jank of it all. A name for this operating system? It has a name. It's called Redacted. That's not a placeholder. That's the actual name. I don't know why the screen is this large now, but to debug that, I can go into the settings of the system and see the preferred screen size. It's being set to this, but it's either not being picked up or become too large or something. I don't know. But the thing that I wanted to show is that you can change the name of the operating system. The system name is literally 1 billion devices run redacted. It doesn't do anything besides change that one text, but yeah. I don't know what happened exactly, but apparently my... Oh my god, I know what happened. I changed a setting in my monitor that makes it so that X11 applications do not get to resize themselves. Instead, the system resizes them. And apparently, this shit is what X11 has chosen as the correct resolution. So much jank. This operating system. See, I used to have legacy applications X11 apply scaling themselves, and I opened OBS one day and everything was giant. No, everything was really, really small. So I went to this monitor, this one, and I set this preference. And then I was like, hold on, let me set it for the other one too. I think that's what happened. And now everything is small on this one, even though I changed the settings for this one, not the other one. GNU jank. So these settings are for the entire... I can either choose to have my operating system in a decent size and not be able to see anything in OBS, or OBS in a decent size and the operating system in a ridiculous scaling. Let me see if a list that fixes the issue, because like genuinely, what the fuck? Look at that. That looks crisp. That looks good. Yeah, it's not GNU here. It's just like everything. Now I see myself super large and everything else tiny in OBS. Here it's actually readable. Here it's not. Oh god, everything is so janky. I miss Windows. I miss Mac. That's the only thing I miss. I'm joking about the other two. I miss Mac. Holy fuck. Anyway, if anyone feels like donating so I can get myself a Mac Studio or something. It's like, genuinely, what the fuck? What happened? Anyone want to donate a quick $1,000 or something? Much appreciated. All right. So, we're going to create a new thread for the owner process, which I'm actually going to do one thing. First thing I'm going to check is the file system that you're trying to access within your own process, because if so, what the fuck are you trying to do? I probably need to handle that case. I just don't know how exactly. So, yeah. I'm just not gonna disallow it for now, that's fine. Now, if you don't own the file system that you're trying to access, then we are going to get the process that does. Here I can do that check I was mentioning, if the owner process SPSR is privileged, actually I can do is privileged owner proc, then I can just skip this whole thing and this will handle it just fine. I don't know if that's necessary, but just in case it is, well, there you have it. Because like I said, a privileged process is literally a part of the kernel running as a process. So it should be handled like the file system is owned by the kernel in the first place. I don't think this case will happen, but just in case, I'm handling it. Okay, we're going to create a new thread for the owner process. We're going to need to give it some memory, so alloc thread. I'm going to allocate a new thread. I'm going to give it to this process, copy in that process's permissions, or a privilege level mostly, and the entry point is going to be stat for that process, which we can get from the owner process's files. Well, actually, from the module, I already have it. From the module's stat function. That is going to be the entry point into this process. And yeah, there's no need for that at over there. So this is going to be creating a new process. And then after we're done with that, we're going to give the new process a job ID. That job ID is the one that we've created up here. I forgot where I created it. I couldn't see it. Job ID. Okay, I was able to zoom in the chat. And I was able to zoom in everything, but OBS, the cursor is still literally so small, it looks like a pixel. It's ridiculous, bro. It's fucking ridiculous. Wayland struggles to do proper scaling in 2026, but it does replace X11 for whatever reason. X11 struggles to scale as well. These two displays have different DPIs. X11 cannot handle that. Ubuntu has a fix for that in its upstream. It has like a patch. No one else does. So if you're not on Ubuntu, X11 is a no-go if you have a setup like this. 2 DPIs. Trust me, I tried both, and I tried all the desktop environments that I could. None of them give me a proper setup. This is the closest I can get. Look at the difference between the chat size and the button for stop streaming. And this is the best I can do. All right, so I'm scheduling the process. I am not passing any arguments to it. Like I said, that's probably going to be for tomorrow. And I need to block the current process. If I'm not mistaken, it should be enough for me to set its state to blocked. Again, I'm doing it per process, not per thread. I can also do it per thread if I'm not mistaken. Get current thread. I didn't do that. I didn't create a get current thread. Now I'll get to that. The thing is, I did a refactor of the scheduler to be able to handle threads better. I did it once and it mostly worked, but it had a lot of issues. But the thing is, I did it all at once. Whereas then I ended up doing a more progressive one. It takes longer and I haven't had time to fully finish it, but at least it fully works. So yeah, I would rather add a to-do here and block the entire process, because again, I'm literally just testing this feature, so I'm okay with blocking the entire process. Okay. So that is it. That is all the setup I need. The final little thing I need to do is when a thread gets halted, if the current thread has a job ID, then we're going to print job ID I fulfilled. Tell the job manager. We're not actually going to tell it anything yet. That's what we're going to do next. But we'll do that after the ad break. I'll be right back. I'm back. I tried debugging this 11 issue, and all I found out is that apparently OBS does not have access to my microphone. Great job with that one. You really feel so secure right now that OBS does not have access to my microphone if I don't explicitly allow it. I literally am not even allowed to give it permission. But it doesn't need it. It literally uses my microphone how it pleases. It doesn't matter. Yeah, by the way, OBS runs in Wayland, but if I run it in Wayland, it doesn't have browser tabs, which means I'm not allowed to see the chat, as well as the ad manager and a bunch of other stuff. And they're just great. And it's so wonderful. Nothing works. What are you gonna do? Literally nothing. Anyway, everything is wonderful. Okay, if I'm doing everything correctly, which I highly doubt that I did everything correctly, I can launch two processes, one that creates a file system, one that tries to access that file system. There is one thing that I'm missing, and it's making sure that this is actually something is happening, right? Yeah, so the terminal is running the file system, and the file browser is going to try to access that file system. Specifically, its stat function, which I did not find. It's stat function, which I'm just going to do a custom stat for now. I'm going to create a function for it. Custom stat. Custom stat takes a const char path and an fs stat pointer, but none of these are being filled in yet, so I care more about doing this. Essentially, and return true. What's going to happen, if everything goes correct, is the terminal is going to create this file system. The file browser is going to access this file system. It is going to be blocked until this function that I just created runs. This function will run, will print hello, and it will be unblocked. No, it will not be unblocked because I haven't written that part yet. And none of that is going to happen because control reaches end of fight function. Which one? I see. I see. So I can just do this. Right, this one always gets caught unless the process is privileged. If the process is privileged, then we go to this one. And now I made my screen resolution too small, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so this process clearly got blocked. Sync between 9 and 7 will happen with job 1. I didn't schedule the thread. You create the thread and then you have to schedule the thread. Okay, well, good to know that the blocking is working. Let's test it again. And while I'm at it, terminal, file browser is blocked. Okay, this works fine. It wrote hello, and then thread has ended with code 1, job ID 1, fulfill, tell the job manager. We've done it. We've created a job. We've created jobs in this economy. In this economy, I have created a job. We have employment, officially. Was there something that was half-assed that I needed to fix? Yes, the screen resolution. Even though the screen resolution for this thing is... I'm so pissed off, bro. Hold on, let me look at my settings real quick again. Just to make sure that your scaling is correct. Your resolution is correct. Okay, so scale it. Should I just scale it? No, I'm scaling this one up already. So why should I scale this one up? I'm just genuinely at a loss for words. Do Flatpaks auto-update? Is that what happened? It auto-updated and it messed up more? I don't know. I just opened the OBS one day and all of a sudden, boom, it was gone. Like all of a sudden, everything was tiny. And I can make the browsers bigger, but I can't make the actual controls of OBS bigger. So I have to like... Love the way you explain your thinking process while writing or reading code. Curious, did you study any operating system architecture prior to this project? Also new to the stream. Okay, so welcome. About explaining, I was talking to a friend about that yesterday, about how to explain that properly. So I am trying to do better. Because I noticed sometimes I will explain something like 20 minutes ago and then not explain it again as I'm doing it. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can like catch that and do it properly. So that if somebody joined in the last 20 minutes, they kind of understand what's going on. So thank you for that. Did I study any operating system architecture? Yes. I failed an exam 3 times. So that's a no, really. For all intents and purposes, the answer is no. But if we want to get technical, the answer is yes. Okay, I changed my system config to using 1080. So we're going to make it 920 by 720. Now back to our usual size. There we go. System looks decent sized and decent resolution. All right, and once again, we have our process. We have our other process. Creates a hello thingy here. Finishes, tells the job manager, and there's a... I'm doing a keystroke to go back to the previous window. And it's not working. Linux hijacks it instead. Anyway. Jank. Jank, 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 jank. Jank, 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 jank. All right, the next logical step here is to fulfill the job and thus tell the other process to that we're done, that we did it, that we did the thing. All right, so for create new job, I'm going to try to make this a little bit more... There's a little bit of redundancy in what I want to do. Okay, so I wanted to create a new job by telling it, this is the thread that requested the job. This is the thread that is going to be fulfilling the job. So that fulfilling the job is just telling it, and it automatically handles all the logic for resuming the thread and whatnot, and like the synchronization between them. The problem here is just that I have a job ID here, which means I need to include the job manager. But here I would need to include the thread. So it's kind of a circular dependency, and you can always do forward declarations, but I'm always bad at doing them in C, but I should be able to handle struct thread T. So I should be able to do thread requesting thread and thread fulfilling thread. Ideally, do I maybe even want to make it create the thread? This thread? Create it directly in here. Yeah, I'm probably going to want to do that. Yeah. Because again, the entire point of the job manager is it handles file system synchronization between the different processes. So it's supposed to know what the file system works like. It's an extension of the file system, really. So I am okay with just telling it a process ID for who owns this thing. And maybe even type def struct job T. Let's call it a job application, just for the sake of it, really. The job application. It is going to define the type of job that we're trying to do. Right now we only have one, but we're also going to do job none. So I always have an invalid enum at the beginning. Job types. Job none, and then job enum. What? Enum? No, stat. That is the behavior that we're trying to do right now. There's going to be some more, like job read, job write, Oh, and I've just fixed my circular dependency, so hold on. All of this stuff, I'm going to move to the shared library between userspace and kernel, because eventually this is going to be going to, well, I don't know if I want to do this, but IOU ring in Linux has a similar behavior, and it's supposed to help you batch file system requests, right? When you want to do a lot of writing, a lot of reading at the same time, you write into a buffer, you tell the kernel, hey, I'm done, run all these operations, and then the kernel is going to write into another buffer, I've done this operation, I've done this operation, I've done this operation. All of that is going to be non-blocking for your process. It's going to be just one syscall for telling the kernel to actually execute those. You can technically make it even be 0 syscalls if the kernel just pulls constantly on shared memory, but you don't need to do that. If I ever want to do something like that, then this whole job interface is going to be given to the userland. So it fixes my circular dependency of the job ID being imported by process and process being imported by this. Because this is going to move away, and it is now going to include a new file called files jobs.h. This is how I've fixed any kind, like 90% of my potential circular dependencies have gone away because I do this. Because I put the interface here, and then the actual implementation here. If you explore editors further, you might like Lem. It's an attempt to be modern Emacs built on CL. Yo, why did you not why what the hell? You waited a week to tell me that. Come on. Yo, that was some sus images down there. Have I heard of... Look, I'm not gonna lie. I don't trust any code that has a .clod. If you want to use AI to ask it questions, I don't agree with you, but whatever. But if you're using it to code, you're feeding me slop. It doesn't work. Stop pretending that it does. I've seen this guy's picture before. Who is this? I've seen these people before. I've seen this guy before. The little butthole profile picture. Yeah, very recognizable. GitHub Actions. I've seen this little guy too. But no, I had seen that guy before. Maybe I've already checked out this project. In which case, I didn't use it because it was... Ah, here's the person. Fukamachi. I've seen your picture before, I can tell you that much. And this one too looks familiar. So maybe I've already looked at this project. And I'm assuming that contributors are ranked by like how much they've contributed. So these are the top contributors, I'm assuming. So yeah. It's nice that it's written in Common Lisp. How is it for performance? Also, I am curious, how good are LLMs for Common Lisp? Can't imagine that's very good. Anyways, go back to doing what I was doing. I technically don't need to import this anymore. And now I can directly include process.h. So I can have this without the forward declaration. And here I just need to have files jobs. So you don't need to know what the job manager is doing. You just have to know that there's something called a job ID. That's it. What OS am I using? I am on Temple OS. Okay, so instead of this, it's literally going to be a job application. to create a job, and that's going to give you back a job ID. What's the job application going to have? It's going to have a pointer to the thread that's requesting. It's going to have a process ID. Fulfill ID. Ah, but you need to know what a thread is. Oh my god. I forgot about that. I forgot about that. You need to know what a thread is. I could do thread IDs, but thread IDs are per process. Like, all processes have a main thread ID of 1. So I would need to do process ID and thread ID. That's not great. Also, there's no real easy way to get a thread ID, so let me just do a pointer, not overthink this thing too much, and maybe just leave a to-do here. Proper thread pointer, question mark. LLMs are great at Lisp. It's very consistent syntax. Fair. Most Lisp community isn't huge into vibe coding though. Yeah, exactly. They write my custom Lisp with lots of reader macros fine too, even. I'm assuming they have to have like access to your project to understand all of those. Because at the end of the day, you know, every query is literally like an entirely blank slate, so. Also, are local LLMs also like that? Because if they are, genuinely, what is going on in the LLM building community? Why can you not customize a local LLM to learn from you? But I don't know. I'm thinking if you use LLMs, use local ones. And if you use local ones, I would expect them to be able to actually truly learn from what you make them do and remember things by actually training locally, if that's even possible. I genuinely don't know if that's possible from an architectural point of view. My knowledge on that is admittedly limited. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an ID. Oh, one thing I forgot in the job application. You're going to need to specify the type of job that you want. And then eventually you're going to have to specify buffers as well. We're going to leave that for tomorrow, most likely. It's a little bit late. It's not super late, but it's not super early. List community, meaning the 5 people who use Emacs. 4, I stopped using Emacs. So it's now Dulce over on YouTube chat, Zozing, Valigo. It used to be me. And who else uses Emacs? Who's using Emacs out there? Emacs users. What the fuck? All right. Listen, I would love to use Emacs. I would love to use Emacs. I would love to use them. I use a DAG that automatically feeds it context needed. And yes, I mainly use local LLMs, but I've also done fine tunes. Shouldn't local LLMs have fine tuning by default, or are there at least, again, I don't use LLMs, but if I used LLMs, I would want to use a local one. I don't necessarily like have a problem with. I always say that the interface of LLMs, like the new natural language processing, can be useful. And for example, the other day I was looking for a very specific article. I didn't remember the name of it. I couldn't find it on Google, so I asked the LLM because I was able to write just a paragraph explaining what little I remembered from the article, and it gave me the article, which by the way was by Laurie Kirk, aka Laurie Wired, and Richard Stallman, 5th one. There you go, the 5 users. Except I'm gone, so now it's 4. Unless you have another one. For those type of things, LLMs can be useful as an interface for talking. I don't believe they're particularly good at logical thinking, so they're not good at coding. which is again why I will immediately dislike any project that uses it for coding. Any vibe coded project. I don't have any trust in it. That and what I've mentioned about Z, for example, is that, again, this is an architectural problem. Every time you ask an agent to do something, or you just tell an LLM to do something, it's a completely blank slate. And you have a limited amount of context. So when you tell it, hey, add this feature to this existing code base, and it has to take parts of the code base. It doesn't take the entire code base, but it looks at parts of the code base. It will eventually fill up its context, and it will produce slop code. Just code that has a lot of redundancy, a lot of useless things. And then its input will be that slop code. And so it's going to become this feedback loop where eventually it becomes too much slop for a human to handle, but also for the LLM to handle. And you get to a point where I have no trust that Z is going to be able to fix the bugs that they have. What used to be glitches have become bugs in the Git section of Z. And what used to be stable has become glitchy in the rest of Z, which is why I'm assuming soon enough Z is going to be buggy as hell. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to be able to fix it. But that's the impression that I'm getting, and that's very much the way that it's going. So that really sucks. That is my issue with, again, seeing Claude here. Scares me that the same thing is going to happen. If you use an LLM to talk, to ask it questions, if you use a local one, I think I have no problem with you. If you use a cloud-based one, I wish you would use a local one. But I understand asking it questions. It is useful for that. Especially if you verify the information. You use those questions as a starting point. And I do wish architecturally they were built better. But yeah. Anyway, not super trusting a project that is vibe coded, but I would love a modern Emacs. What about Space Emacs? Focused on evil. Is it maybe a little bit like Lazy Vim? Does some shit for you? Doesn't get stupid with you? Key bindings are organized using mnemonic prefixes like B for buffer, P for project, S for search, H for help. We're off to a good start here. We're off to a good start here. I understand the hype around what editors you use. Just use the one that has the most officially supported extensions needed for development. I think you should use whatever editor you want. But I also think that hey, hold on. This call should be down here. And this should be here. Having a .Claude vibe code, it feels like it. I'm not sure. I don't vibe code and I don't use Claude, so I can't tell you for sure, but it feels like it. Because what's in a .Claude folder? What do you have in there? Commands, plan, implement. Sounds vibe code. It doesn't mean the entire project is vibe coded, but again, vibe coding even a little bit will take over your project. Space Emacs sucks. Doom Emacs is slightly better. The one thing I don't like, I do agree with like the hype thing, is that like we get too hung up on that. I'm just genuinely trying to find an editor that I enjoy. So I take a little detour, but I do have to admit, like, it's funny that there's a lot more engagement when I talk about which editor to use than when I'm coding, for example. I find that really funny. It is what it is. All right, I need to fill in this information. Not sure why I need that. I don't need that. I need to give you a job application. Who's requesting? That would be the current process ID. I don't know, it's actually the current thread, but for now it's the current process ID. This is gonna come away with me, but this to-do can go at least. The fulfillment ID is who is going to be fulfilling that. That's not a very good name, is it? That's not a very good name. And the type is going to be a job stat. Yeah, use the tool that works best for you. I've been using Z. Right now it's working best for me because I need to work kind of fast. I want to get work done. That's it. I actually don't need the returned job for anything. The job manager will handle all of that for me. Okay. It is true that sometimes people will get super stuck on which editor to use, working on like configs for them. And to be fair, like I just saw like the most basic things in Emacs have this large ass Lisp script. It's ridiculous. But I get it. We get too hung up on the tooling, that's true. Yo, JulesNet, what's up? I know you use Zed. I'm literally complaining about it. But I tried using Emacs and I was complaining harder, so I'm back to Zed now. Okay, let's see. When we create a new job, we're gonna take our job application. That's gonna tell us the current thread. Here I have to resolve it because I'm using a pointer, not just a pointer to the object directly. Requesting, requester, is that a word? Yeah, it is now. It's just going to be a cast of the application requesting. And the process that owns the file system owner, is going to be in the get proc by ID application dot fulfill ID. Again, I need to change the name of that. Then this becomes the requester thread ID or process ID, and the application fulfill ID and the job ID. There we go. We're then going to allocate a thread, so we're going to need access to the scheduler. Scheduler. And the owner proc has now become fs owner. And unfortunately, we don't have access to the stat function anymore, so we'll need to get it from the process, which is fs owner file system exposed file system. It can only have one right now, and I'm okay with that. Stat. The ID is going to be given like that. The current process is going to be blocked. Well, actually, we don't need to block the current process. We can just block the requesting thread. Is it thread state? I haven't changed the name of this. Oh well. And then we're going to schedule the new thread, but we're not going to unblock the old thread yet. It took 2 years for Emacs to truly feel like home to me. Now it's been a decade and I can't leave. I get it. But it didn't take that long for Z. It didn't take that long for VS Code. It didn't take that long for any other editor I used before that. The fact that it can take that long for one of these editors, which Emacs is not a terminal code editor, but it is spiritually a terminal code editor. Why do I keep writing JOD? I'm trying to type job ID and I keep writing JOD. I'm trying to shorten it a little bit too much. And there's a massive difference between vibe coding and using LLMs, yes, but like I said, vibe coding or using LLMs to write code for you has great potential to take over your code base because the LLMs are going to write such shit, such slop that it's going to be unmaintainable to a user. And eventually it's just better to let the LLM handle that. And that's just going to keep growing and growing and growing until it, like, until the Git client for Z is kind of and the rest of Z is starting to become glitchy. Okay, to fulfill a job, well, we're gonna need to store information on this job somewhere. So this is gonna be a internal structure for the job manager. I could put it in the header, really, but it's no point. Job state. The job state can directly have a thread for who requested, a thread for who fulfilled, worker. Oh my god. The word is worker. God, fulfiller. I'm getting lip fulfiller now. It's a worker. And let's make this even more explicit. No, let's keep it like that. Keep it like that. Keep it like that. I almost did this wrong. It's supposed to be a pointer to the process. No, it's not. It's supposed to be the ID. It's supposed to be the ID. This works with IDs. Okay, so let's rename these things to make them a little better. Worker process ID, requesting thread ID. All right, a thread requests a resource that is owned by a process. Then we spawn a thread in that process. That's a different story. The dog's name is Jester. He's so chill because he's Andalusian. Likes to sleep. Second an Andalusian person joins the stream, they're gonna be really offended. Okay, all things renamed. Now I'm going to do a job ID, but I'm also going to need to store a job state. And do I want to make these jobs? This is, by the way, for the person who asked about are data structures and algorithms useful? The kind of question that I'm going to ask, depending on how low level the language that you use is, you're going to ask yourself this question more or less. So there's that. But the question is, what data structure should I use to hold job states? Should it be a linked list? Should it be a stack based? Jobs are going to be fulfilled in an asynchronous manner, which means I can schedule 3 jobs in a row, but then job 2 gets fulfilled, then job 1, then job 3. So not a stack. Let's say linked list is probably the best way to go about this. If there's too many, oh well. It unfortunately requires me to allocate this job state. Job list. I'm going to need to include the linked list. And if this linked list doesn't exist, we are going to create the linked list. Linked list create. I'm gonna want allocations for the job manager to be in their own thing, so job page. This is a page of memory, but it should be called LinkedIn. I wish I could call it LinkedIn. Because it's a job page. That's LinkedIn. How do you like KDE? KDE is fine. Wayland and X11 need to stop their fucking feud. Already, I'm tired of them. Alright, so I'm just gonna do a very quick job custom allocator, which is literally the same allocator that I always use, but it allows you to customize where the memory goes. It allows you to isolate the memory from anywhere else. Essentially, we're going to return a call to allocate instead of zalloc with the size of a job state t, and falling back on a page allocator if you run out of memory to allocate more. Bada bing, bada boom. My dad jokes will be next level. Thank you. Bye, Ice Dave. Thanks for joining. Also, how long have you been working on this awesome OS stuff? About a year. Started in April last year. I started streaming sometime in July. I don't remember exactly when my first stream was. Is there a way I can look that up? I remember it was a Friday. Because I've already missed the anniversary of when I started working on this project. I missed the anniversary of my first YouTube video. I'm not gonna do anything, but maybe I shouldn't miss the anniversary for my first stream. I believe 25th of July. That's some weird ass reminders. I was using reminders to remind me of literally anything, and those are now in my calendar. It's just doing their job. It's reminding me of shit that I needed to do a year ago, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, it's not a microkernel, but this is gonna kind of bring it closer. But yeah, the most important resources are still within the kernel, so it's monolithic. Microkernel, this kind of job does add overhead. This kind of like asynchronous communication between processes to handle resources does add overhead. So I don't like that part of microkernels, but it is kind of hybrid in the sense that as much as I can move outside of the kernel, I will, now that I'm doing this. Okay, okay, so why am I not returning directly the type here? All right, so when you do a job, I can actually create the job here and automatically give it the ID and then return it. So there we go. We are already creating the thing. One thing that is missing is the job ID, of course. All right, so we're going to take a job state new job. Oh, we can actually call it job, and do job alloc. And all of these allocations are going to go in their own pages of memory, completely separate from the rest. POSIX, no, but I did borrow the everything is a file philosophy from it, and mostly from Plan 9. So there we go. Now we have this job structure. We're going to have to point to who the worker is and who the requester is. Right, the worker is being created here. So job worker is the new thread, and the job requester is the requester. And then it's given an ID, and then we're going to do memory sharing tomorrow or whatever. To fulfill a job, we're going to have to find a job with this job ID by going through the linked list, which I'm not doing, by the way. I forgot to do that thing. So, how about because I wanted to give the linked list its own allocator. That I can do. That I can do. I can do. I can do. I can do. I'm thinking of making it so that by default, all of these data structures, like linked lists, stacks, arrays of various kinds, do this thing. All their allocations, they do in their own isolated page in memory. It is adding overhead because at the very minimum, allocating a linked list will allocate 4 kilobytes of memory. Yeah, no. Maybe add it as an option, but it technically is already an option. I can do create alloc and give it its own custom allocator. But is it really worth it? Yeah, I can do that. Just do its own custom allocator that handles both. And then give the linked list an allocator. What is the syntax for this thing? I don't know. It decided to not tell me. Okay, the allocator is job man alloc. Sounds like a man talking, like a caveman talking. Man job. Man alloc. All right. So we create the linked list. We create the job. We create maybe the linked list before we create the job. And then we do job list. No, we don't do it like this. This is not object oriented. We do linked list push to the job list, the job, and it's going to be pushed to the back of the job queue. All right. Sanitizing the CPU state. You need to write assembly code for that. Yes, you do. The context switching, if that's what you mean. Yes. You just have to take all the registers in the CPU and save them somewhere, pretty much. And it's you need to do that with assembly because most likely C or any other language will use CPU registers and override them in the process. So you have to be very careful which registers you use. I've been watching your stream for some time now. I'm fascinated by how you build your OS. Happy to hear that. It's an enjoyable process. I'm actually enjoying multi-threading. Who knew? Who knew? When you do things right, you don't try to hack it. You don't try to take shortcuts. Works well. What do you know? What do you know? What arch do you support? Just ARM. You should be able to scroll a little bit to see someone just complaining about x86 at Arch, and that explains to you exactly why I don't want to to do Arch. Okay, I need a new returner for the get job state using a job ID. A job ID, which is just going to go through the list. There is a functional way of doing this, but I don't want to do the functional way of doing this. I'm gonna do the good old-fashioned way. For linked list node head, well, current equal to job list head cur exists. and cur equal to cur next. Well, you want to check that it exists and that its data exists. What is your problem? Sequoia? What is the problem? I'm doing something stupid here, but I don't understand what it is. Where am I redefining the word cur? I'm doing something really stupid and I don't understand what it is. There's a syntax error that's causing everything to break here. It seems to think that there's a matching parentheses that's missing. It's right there. Redefinition. How is this a re... There's the syntax error. Alright. Oh my god. I did not see that. It's a cache miss machine. It's a linked list, but you know. Although, I am grouping them all together, so it shouldn't be too difficult. No, it should be fine. I should be able to handle it pretty well, because everything goes in its own separate area of memory. But in other places, you might be right. Honestly, don't think too much about it. It works fine. Once it comes to optimizing, I'll get to it. Also, if I ever need to optimize code, linked lists are probably not the way to go. I want to get the job state from the cur data, and if the job is the one I'm looking for, then I return it. And if I get to the end, I return 0. Then I call this. Using get job state with the job ID. If there's no state, we're gonna do nothing. Well, we're gonna print an error maybe. Could not find job with ID I. Return. If we did find it, let's actually ask who is going to be fulfilling the job. Who fulfills the job? That way we can do a little check if the thread's job ID is not equal to the job ID, or not sure why that would be the case, but whatever. I'm writing a little bit of LLM safe code here in the sense that it's just ridiculous checks, but whatever. The real question, the real thing that I want to check is if the state's worker is not the thread. Job being terminated by wrong thread. Job termination request by wrong thread. Because I'm not actually fulfilling it, so it's not being terminated. Is it null terminated? What is null terminated? Oh, the linked list? Yeah. Next is gonna point to null in the end. Then, whoops. What do we do when we fulfill? The thread is already killed, because we get to this point when the thread is over, when the thread is halted, so we're okay with that. Um, we have to find the requester thread and wake it the fuck up. Ready it. Probably need to schedule it. I think it stayed in scheduling. It's just... yeah, the way that schedule is implemented right now is still process-based, not thread-based. Haven't refactored that part yet. It's just that when a process is running, it runs all its threads. I'll need to fix that, but I haven't gotten around to it. Like I said, I tried doing it all at once. It mostly worked, but I had a few subtle bugs. I prefer just going back and doing it slowly. So that part is not done yet. So I don't need to reschedule the thread now, but I will in the future. But this should fulfill the request, consider the job to be done, and resume our process. We don't have any data being shared between the two processes right now, but that is okay. Fulfill job using the current thread's job ID and the current thread. And of course, we have to include the jobs manager. All right. If everything works now, it's going to be the same as before, except the terminal is going to print hello, and we're not even going to notice the difference. If the job isn't found on the list, you check all the memory? Not all the memory. Hi, Adam Fighter. Just the memory of the linked list. Yeah. All right, I haven't updated the file names here. So this is requesting TID, and this is worker PID. All right, so everything should look completely normal because nothing's really happening. But we'll know. Looks good to me. First crash of the day. It's 11:23 p.m. and the first crash of the day comes now. Damn, that's not half bad. All right. Line 36. Surprising. Am I not null checking something? One of you I'm clearly not null checking. Although, this is weird. It says that the job manager line 36 was called by the job manager line 35. That is not correct. This was not called by this. The other way around, but it doesn't matter. Line 35 calls get processed by ID, which cannot crash. First off, is this the actual thing that's crashing? Is the question that I need to ask. No. It's not. It now points to line 41. So the problem is that the requester doesn't exist. Okay. That is pretty obvious. What's really weird is that it says that it's being called from here, whereas before it was here. Like, I think this is just pointing to the wrong file. File system 269 is calling create job. Yeah, that's accurate. Then 38 file browser, so far so good. Syscall, file system, job manager, line 38. Job manager, line 41. I just think this one here is wrong, but everything else is exactly correct. But I don't know, it's a weird message. But again, I think that the problem... what even is the problem? Yeah, is that you're trying to access address 135. That is quite a high address. But this is null. That's what I'm understanding. My god, maybe because I'm converting a thread ID to a thread directly? Could that be it, perhaps? Could that be the problem? Do we think? We need to fill both of these in, actually. Thread ID and the process ID. All right, I need to create this. Oh my god, I keep clicking on the wrong thing and it doesn't work anyway, so whatever. It's here. We need to store the process ID and the thread ID that is requesting this thing. The thread ID we get from the current process, current thread TID. Yeah, it's literally a number. It's literally a number. I was using it as a pointer because it used to be a pointer, but then I was like, no, I can't just pass the pointer directly. I have to get an ID. I forgot to fix that. So yeah, this is not gonna make any sense. You're going to get the requesting PI process by getting proc by PID. Like the entire point of doing it like this is that maybe you can even do it in userspace without needing to talk to the kernel to handle this thing for you. And then the requester is the requesting processes I don't have a get process by ID. I mean get thread by ID call, and that sucks because I need it. Do I have any helper functions in here? I don't. They're all in the scheduler, which I probably need to move them out of there. I'm surprised I didn't create a helper. I did not create a helper. By the way, I need to get rid of this. Thread T get thread from proc with a process and a thread ID. First off, check very quickly, is the current thread PID the one you're looking for? Then return it. If not, we're gonna have to go through it, and this is genuinely a proper linked list. Literally just linking to the next object. No, not current thread. Starting at the main thread. If the thread TID is the one that we're looking for, return T. Otherwise, T is T next. Do this while T. What is your problem? Right, that is not a pointer. And then, of course, we return nothing if we get to the end of this. Return TID, not from proc, just return TID. No, I need to return the pointer of the thread. Yeah, I'm actually resolving the thread based on the ID. Get thread from proc, requesting proc, and the application requesting TID, which will most likely be resolved by this first case, but you never know. Especially in user space if we ever get to it. Hey Rudy, how you doing? Okay, so what is left for us to do? I think the job manager now properly gets the requester, test it, I think, and get this back. Yeah, it's a helper function. Open the terminal and open the file browser, and it crashes still with a similar error as before. Although, look at that, we've moved forward. Job manager 34 now crashes on the scheduler 264. So does the process not exist? Well, I do need to check that. If no requesting proc, then return. No. Oh my god, no, I see the problem. I see the problem. Although that probably should have given me a proc, but it should have been more of a vulnerability than a crash. Because that's literally the kernel. Alright, there we have it. Now it works. Process ID 1, which is the also the thread ID given to main threads, is the kernel. It's not a real process. It's a real process in terms of the way that it's handled internally, but it doesn't actually run. Okay, that seemed to have worked. We got the hello. Thread has ended with code 1, and we never print anything. Oh, I didn't check if it resumes also. Job I fulfilled. Job id. Let's see. Open the terminal. Open the file browser. Job 1 fulfilled, and the file browser is actually back. I did actually notice. If this is visible, the file browser got unstuck, meaning it resolved the situation. Cool. That's interesting. Every time I do this, yeah, eventually that will crash. Or fail. Every time I do this, I'm creating a new thread completely. First off, I'm not cleaning up old stacks. I'm not making them available again. When the thread is gone, I'm not cleaning it up properly, so I'm not making the stack available again. That's a problem. Although one that I'm aware of. And number two, this is a problem in the file browser. I'm running stat every time I press a key. That is stupid. And there is a limited number of stacks that apparently I reached very, very quickly. I think I'm being super greedy with how big these stacks are. I can probably optimize that further, but it doesn't really matter. I am from Italy, yes, but I live in Spain. And this to-do may be scheduled once the scheduler is fully thread-based. All right. There we have it. I should make a little bit of a reusable thread system for this thing, because you're always going to be accessing the same threads. I kind of did, but then I didn't. That was in the last week's first iteration of this thing, which was very ugly. Anyway, not really a problem for testing that this thing works. This is more of an optimization that I'll do off stream. Really unimportant right now. What does matter process works. All right, job 1 is fulfilled, except we didn't get any information between the processes. So, and I do wonder, this is probably going to cause a crash, because there's no arguments being passed into the thread that's being created. And the thread that's being created is calling this function in userspace, which means this is either going to print garbage, empty, or crash. Empty. Stop doing that, Linux. Empty. Printed null. Cool. All right. That works for me. Now, obviously, tomorrow we're gonna have to deal with the memory stuff. First off, we'll need to write these arguments into... No, that's actually not first off. First off, this here, and technically this here as well, they're both buffers. They're just buffers that we kinda know the size of. For this one, we know the size. It's the size of this type. For this one, we know the size. It's the size of the string. We'll need to calculate it, but like, yeah, we kinda know it. We will need to copy them somewhere in the process's new process's memory. That's part number 1. Part number 2 is we're going to need to pass their values as arguments to this function, which just so happens you do through registers. You put path in x0 and outstat in x1. If you have more than 8 arguments, you need to move them to the stack, but I've kind of designed it so that none of these have more than 8 arguments. They're very, very simple functions. These are all their function signatures that we're going to need to implement. Pointer, 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 well, 64-bit value, 64-bit value, which I'm actually going to get rid of. This is not necessary. Pointer, 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 64, 64, pointer, 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 64, 64 pointer, which is just 64, pointer, 64. Because all of these are syscalls already, I've designed them to have a limited number of arguments so that I don't have to copy those arguments into the stack. I can just put them in registers. This is a kind of limitation that I've created for the system in which you don't have any kind of super complex syscalls with a million arguments. If they need arguments, you will use a helper a structure like the job application, for example. All right. You live in Andalusia? Nice. He's from there. That's a dog, by the way. He's alive. Yeah. I live in Madrid. Nice city used to be when I moved here. It's a little bit unlivable now, but hey. Wait, I hadn't seen this. Process has crashed. With an address of 4. Which one? Okay, so it didn't corrupt one process, but it corrupted the other. I don't know what's going on there. Just want to make sure that if I remove this thing that's not supposed to be there, I am able to continue, execution like normal. If I get rid of this. Okay, yeah, it works. Not sure what was going on where one process was corrupting the other one's memory or something. Or maybe I was just reading the log wrong. Most likely that's what's happening. But yeah. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. So part one is done. Gonna go back to Emacs for this one. Wait, what's Emacs terminal? I did not know you could just run Emacs in the terminal like this. I mean, yeah, I figured, but like, I never did it, I guess. I always ran it from the terminal. Wait, what's Emacs client now? Oh, yeah. I want the GUI version of it. Right. So, okay, step one of inter-process communication. Let's just call it what it is, the simple version of what this is. Inter-process communication. Process one requests something from process two, and this is always going to be limited to the file system. The entire IPC is going to be driven by the file system. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I was thinking about it, and the file system is nothing more than wrapping resources and paths to resources in a neat little interface, text-based interface. That's literally it. So I said, for example, when you go to /graph/screen, who owns this? The graph driver, whatever that is. And what resource is it? The screen. Right, so if you think about it like that, the everything is a file thing makes a lot of sense. Kernel creates a job 3 between them and a thread 4 for proc2. When thread 4 exits, proc1 is resumed. That's what's happening right now. And by the way, the kernel blocks proc1 until the response is there. And when we get the response, process 1 resumes its execution, but there's no data being shared. What needs to happen is arguments are copied into proc2's memory. And it's not just, copy and paste. You have to actually resolve the buffers, copy the buffers. It's mostly buffer based, I believe. Let me see. Use Emacs for a little bit. Hold on. Use that to save real quick. See how it always skips some files? That's annoying as hell. Having to double click folders to open them is also very spiritually old. It's not a modern code editor because it doesn't do that properly. What am I looking for? Yeah, what the structure of the arguments, right? What do they actually look like? That's defined here. Buffer, 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 buffer. This one can be copied immediately. This one can be copied immediately. Most of them are kind of buffers. So you need to... actually, file pointers. I'll need to see about that because those are file descriptors. I'm not sure if those are considered, if I can just copy them over or not. I'll have to see. I think so, though. No. The kernel is going to have to resolve them, and then I can copy them over. It's already doing that. File system modules use a global file descriptor, where no matter how many times you open a file, the global file descriptor is always the same. Whereas whoever opened the file will receive an instance file descriptor, ID, which is different every time you open it. So that resolution needs to be handled by the kernel, but the kernel can handle that, so it's fine. The rest are buffers. We'll just need to copy them over, and these can be first used to copy the buffers, because like this refers to the size of this, and this file offset is again useless. I'm actually not using it. This one is being used though, but it's actually just an int64, but again, needs to be copied. All right, so that's the memory management. We will need to have some buffers that get copied over. I think a limited number of buffers, so we should be able to use like a static array, because there's literally no more than 8 arguments allowed for these function calls. So there's a grand total maximum of 8 pointers. And right now, the maximum we really have is 3. I believe this is the most complex one. Because this is the size of this. This, its size is strlen. And this size is the size of file offset. So yeah, 3. Okay. God, I like being able to move between buffers. By the way, different type of buffer. I'm talking about Emacs buffers now. I like being able to move between them. Because like pressing on go back on Z is such a pain in the ass. It's like I'm here and then I'm here. It will literally move the cursor. When has this ever been a useful feature? I want to go back to the previous file, not to the previous location of the cursor. Well, actually, it is useful when I accidentally do this. But I always end up doing Control Z because that will take me over, and then I just press Control Shift Z to undo what I just undid. So to redo what I just undid. Maybe I should be using this. But, well, to be fair, I've never tried. Does Z allow you to go back to the previous file? Not really. I think that is a very useful feature that Emacs has that I don't think Z has, but maybe it does. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to do the memory. This file is going to be lost, unfortunately, because this buffer is for text that is not saved and for Lisp evaluation. But I created my first Lisp shortcut. Not Lisp shortcut, Emacs shortcut. So I just remembered I would need to figure out how to do indentation properly, and then I'm not getting autocomplete. So that's really annoying. I'm gonna do some research and see if tomorrow I can use Emacs a little bit more. If not, once I'm done with this memory thing, the next thing, immediately, my code editor. All right. That's enough for today. All right, so I've gotten everything that I needed to get done. So that's nice. Tomorrow I'm gonna do the memory thing. I'm hoping it goes as smoothly as today. I'm expecting it to. I'm sure it will. All right, thank you so much, everybody. If I don't melt, because tomorrow's stream is at 3 p.m., if I don't melt, I will see you tomorrow.